Alrighty, welcome back. So this is our second part, and we're going to use synthetic division to divide. Now, once you learn this method, you're not going to want to use our long division, but you'll have to know both methods. And something else that you should note, you can use synthetic division. You can only use when dividing by an x to the first. So if you're looking at the problem we did before, we wouldn't have been able to use synthetic division here because we have an x squared. But we could have used synthetic division here on our first problem, but I wanted you to practice long division, okay? So we can use synthetic division to divide when we have an x to the first. So looking at this, we have x cubed minus x squared minus 2x plus 8 divided by x plus 1. Now, a way to try to kind of think about this is a factor, right? A factor of x minus 1, we can think about that. If we were to try using this factor to figure out its solution, this is kind of like when we worked backwards to write out our polynomial way back when. Instead of going from our answer to our factor, we're going to go to our factor to our solution. So we would set this equal to 0 and solve. We would get x equals 1. That's our solution. Okay, so we're going to use this 1 here when we are using our synthetic division, okay? So the 1 in our solution. So we would put our 1 on the outside, and the difference with solution, or with synthetic, is that it's an upside down division bar, okay? And we only look at the coefficients. Of our variables, okay? So our 1 would go here. Coefficient here is -1, coefficient of -2, coefficient of 8. Doesn't want to go there. Okay. So looking at this, it's very important to make sure that you have all of your variables accounted for. You're not missing any terms here. So we have x cubed, second, first, and x is 0, so we're good, we're golden. So when we're using synthetic division, we need to bring down this 1, that's our first step, or this first number. Then we would multiply these two numbers together, and whatever that answer is, that goes in this spot here. So 1 times 1, that's just 1. And then we add these two numbers together. Before in long division we subtracted, now we're going to add. So -1 plus 1, that's just 0. And then we're going to do the same thing. We take this 1, we multiply it by this number here, and then we put our answer up in this spot here. So 1 times 0 is 0. Then we add the two together to get -2. 1 times -2. That is -2. We add 8 and -2 together to get a positive 6. Okay, so these are just our coefficients. So in order to figure out what our polynomial is now, we have to think a little bit. So we started off with an x cubed and we divided by an x. So if we divided an x by an x cubed, that means we're going to be left with an x squared. So that means this first number here, that's our x squared term. So we have a 1x squared. This would be our x place, and we have a 0x. And this is just our constant, so that's -2, or x to the 0 place. And then we have this number here, this last number is always our remainder. I mean, ideally, that would be 0. Sometimes it's not. So in this case, we have an r of 6. Okay? So then from here, we have to simplify this, make this look a little bit better. So x squared, we could just keep that one away. 0x, we don't have to write that, and just minus 2. And just like we did before, we would take our 6 or add it, and have our 6 divided by whatever we were dividing by, so that's our x minus 1. Okay, so this is going to be our final answer. Alrighty? So let's try this next problem. Okay, so if our factor is x plus 2, set x plus 2 equal to 0. Our solution is x equals 2. So that means we're going to have a negative 2 on the outside. And then looking at our numbers here, we have a x cubed, x squared, x to the first, x is 0. So we're good. We don't need to put any placeholders in. So let's just write in our coefficients of 1, negative 2, and 8. Okay, so then now, same thing. Let's move our 1 down. So negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. We add those two. So that's negative 3. Negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6. Add those two to get 4. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Add those two, and you get 0. Woo! So from here, what this is, half my 0 went away. There we go. So what this is saying now, if we start with x cubed divided by an x, this would be our x squared place. This is our x place, and this is our x to the 0 place. And then this 0 here is our remainder. So we have a remainder of 0. We don't have to write anything then. That means we have no remainder. So then that means that this right here is our final answer. If it wants, no, it doesn't want me to box it, but that's our final answer. Okay, so what I need you guys to do is look at this last problem, try it on your own, and then compare with what you have with what I have. Okay, so pause the video and then compare. Okay, so let's check to see what you have. So first step, you should have noticed that we're missing an x squared. Oh, poor thing. So you had to fill it in, put a placeholder there for your x squared place. So your coefficients are 1, 0, 7, and negative 5. Once you use synthetic division, you'll end up getting x squared plus 2x plus 11, having a remainder of 17. So then you just take this 17 and divide it by what we were dividing by up here. 17 over x minus 2. And there you go. So, as if you wanted to write yourself a couple notes, excuse me, you need to, so maybe remember, you need to check for missing variables. Okay, every time you have to check so that way you can put in your placeholder. Otherwise, you'll end up with a sad face on your paper because you probably made a mistake. Okay, so that is just your one big hint. Okay, so hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in class.